Welcome, everybody, to the debut episode of the Boston Sports Podcast. My name is Malik Zork. Alongside me, I've got my co-host, Ryan Sullivan. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. First day of class today down here at the University of Rhode Island in the books. First day of my career, so very excited to talk some football.
Yeah, let's do it. So what I wanted to do first was introduce ourselves a little bit. So my name is Malik Zork. I'm a journalism student at UMass Amherst, and I am a junior. I have done some experience in journalism, like I interned at the Lowell Sun, mostly doing some like high school football games Friday nights, marathons, soccer games, just some regular intern stuff. Ryan, what about you?
Well, I'm a senior at the University of Rhode Island now. In the past, I worked for the school radio station, 90.3 WRIU. Done a lot of broadcasts with them. Most notably, I got to call both the semifinal and the finals of the ESCHL Championship back in my sophomore year. Talking about some other stuff I've done around campus, I work for the school newspaper. I'm a staff reporter there now, so I've covered the hockey beat in the past, done a story my freshman year about when Dan Hurley decided to stay instead of going to Rutgers. As well as a bunch of other sports, but hockey's been my forte. But this year, I'm finally out of the marching band. It's my first year being able to cover the football team this year. I'm very excited for it and hopefully looking to expand my horizons.
All right, let's do it. Let's talk some Pats. And I wanted to start with some general thoughts on the upcoming game against the Houston Texans this Sunday. And let me just start off with, I think the most intriguing aspect for me, at least, is going to be how Deshaun Watson plays, because I love the kid. I think he's going to be a stud if he can stay healthy. Hopefully this doesn't become an RG3 type of situation where he suffers a crucial knee injury and, falls off a cliff. He had over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he gave the Patriots defense a real hard time last year. And I'm also interested to see how the Pats O-line performs against one hell of a front seven with guys like J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, and Jadeveon Clowney. I like the Pats O-line a lot. I know they haven't been over-the-top spectacular, but I think they've been a top 10 unit, especially the past 2 years. I think the interior offensive line is pretty good, especially with Shaq Mason, who just got a extension. I really like that O-line. Yeah, for sure. I think he's a hell of a player, one of the most underrated guards or offensive linemen in the game. But the Houston D-line, like that's a scary, scary, scary D-line right there. And talk about Brady, who's 41 years old. I'm going to be very interested to see how they game plan. Are they going to throw a lot of screens to kind of counteract that? Are they going to do a lot of quick passes, draw plays, all that stuff? What about you, Ryan?
Well, it's interesting to me that your takeaway from this game going into it is going to be revolving around Deshaun Watson. Mine's the inverse. Mine's on this Texans D-line, most notably J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt's pretty much a generational talent on defense. He's one of the best defensive players ever, and he's a very charitable guy. We saw that with the Hurricane Harvey relief funds, but he's always hurt. And he has the real potential to go down as almost like a Bo Jackson type player where he could have had a absolutely spectacular career, but injuries just absolutely derailed it. So the thing I'm looking forward to most of this game is seeing J.J. Watt. Are we back to the old J.J. Watt? Is he going to take some time to break into it? Or is he not going to be a thing anymore? And, that'll be really sad. But I do agree with you. Deshaun Watson, he's going to be a new stud in the NFL. I'm very excited to see what he has to offer. And talking about the game as a whole, the Pats are the favorite in this game, and I feel bad for what I'm about to say. I'm not a big fan of their odds. Historically, the Pats aren't that good in September. They boast a 10-5 record in their last 4 seasons. Not to pick out random seasons, just last 4 seasons, 4 conference championships, 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 wins. So I feel like the last 4 years is a pretty good benchmark for this team. 10-5 record, that's not spectacular. It's not terrible, not great.
No, it's not that bad, but it's not.
But it's not Patriots, right? Like, because that that pretty much comes to an average of 2-1. Roughly a month. Patriots could be doing a little better. Now moving on from that, I'm fine with September being a field out month because, again, they've made the Super Bowl 3 of the 4 seasons where they with that 10-5 start. But the Pats' number 1 receiver this week is Chris Hogan. You realize that, right? Yeah, Gronk's really a wide receiver. I know he's a tight end, but he's the best tight end ever played the game. He's a totally different type than what's been in the NFL historically. Chris Hogan's no match for any half-decent cornerback, safety, whoever you put on him. Not having Julian Edelman's going to kill this team. On top of that, your first-round pick, Isaiah Wynn, is done for the season. Belichick gave the team a very light off-season workout regimen. What part about anything of what I just said is supposed to instill confidence that the Patriots can handle one of the most ferocious defenses in the NFL? I just don't think they'll be able to handle it.
Well, I mean, I disagree with you just because I don't think the Texans are on the Patriots level. I think they have a good team. The offense, I think, is going to be good. Their O-line, suspect. But I do agree with you on the Texans D-line. One thing I did disagree with you, actually, was about J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt has, I think, like a half sack in 6 games played against the Patriots or something like that. I saw it on Twitter the other day. But J.J. Watt has been no problem for the Patriots. I'm worried about guys like Whitney Mercilus and Jadeveon Clowney. Those guys, if you remember the divisional game last year, or 2 years ago, I'm sorry, they put Mercilus and Clowney inside, and guys like Shaq Mason, David Andrews, and Joe Tooney, they couldn't handle those guys. Those are terrific pass rushers, some of the most underrated pass rushers in the game. And so that's where my focus is definitely going to be. J.J. Watt's a terrific player of his own. I'm going to be interested to see how they handle him. But it seems like whenever it's just one star player, the Patriots kind of focus on him and make sure that he's not the problem. It's when they have supporting people like Mercilus and Clowney. That's what I'm going to be interested to see, if Joe Tooney can go 1v1 against Mercilus, or if Andrews can go 1v1 versus Clowney, because I think Shaq Mason can take 1v1 any of those 3 guys,
Sure.
But are the other guys going to be able to do it? We'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not coming into this game thinking that I'm not trying to say the Pats are going to lose this game, but I think the betting line right now is Pats at like a 65 or something around there. It's a 10-point spread. I think it should be closer than that. I mean, the Pats, again, last year, first game of the season, they got blown to smithereens by the Chiefs. And you know what? Yeah, Alex Smith had a spectacular September, and that was part of it. But that doesn't change the fact that they're always not historically, but they're not great in September. They're not.
I agree, for sure.
So, again, do I think the Pats can win this game? And do I think the Pats will win this game? Sure. But if I wake up Monday morning and see the Pats got thumped by this team, or that Tom Brady got sacked 7 times, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to be shocked. And I agree with your point. The Pats do a good job minimizing superstars. That entire front 7 is scary. And their secondary is great as well, as they just picked up the Honey Badger this offseason.
I agree with you there. The Texas defense is no joke. But Rob Gronkowski is no joke as well. I'm not sure whether they're going to have an answer for him. Tyrann Mathieu is a hell of a player, but I don't think he has the size to go 1v1 versus Gronk.
Does anyone have the size to go 1v1 versus Gronk?
Not really, but like there are guys like Eric Berry who neutralize Gronk, or Jalen Ramsey who can go 1v1, not give up a lot of size, and be able to at least minimize his damage.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether the Texans are going to have an answer for Gronk, and I do agree with you that Chris Hogan leading the wide receiving group is not a very confident image for Patriots fans, but they do have a really good stable at running back. They got Burkhead, who can go out and line out in the slot and catch passes out of the backfield. We all know what James White can do. So I'm not 100% worried, or, I'm not worried about their odds against the Texans. I do think they're going to win, and I think they're going to win smoothly. But I do think that there are some spots that, the Texans can give the Patriots some trouble. But we'll have to see. I think it's definitely going to be an intriguing game this Sunday. There's not a lot of times where you get a season opener that has a lot of storylines that can be analyzed from a lot of different aspects.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, to clear this up, I have the Patriots, and this I'll get to this later, but I have the Patriots coming out at 11-5 this season, and this is one of the games I have them marked as possibly losing. And again, I have 5 games marked as them, like 5 quote danger games I have listed. I don't expect them to lose them all, but every year, isn't there some stupid game the Patriots lose that really comes out of nowhere? So, I think that this could be one of the ones. But also, going back to how you started the show, this Texans offense isn't half bad either. Now, do I think the Pats defense can stand up to it? Yeah, absolutely. But Deshaun Watson, he's a total stud. He performed tremendously last year until he tore his ACL and ruined my fantasy team. But beyond that, you have DeAndre Hopkins in there, Lamar Miller, Will Fuller. The Pats defense are going to have their hands full this entire game, whether they're running, whether they're passing. Deshaun Watson, obviously you can scramble. I do want to see how strong that knee is after, tearing an ACL. But this Texans team is no joke on either side of the ball. It'd be one thing if we were playing the Jets or if the Dolphins can't play, really anyone in the division, because the AFC East this year is worse than it's been in the last few years, believe it or not. But this is a legit opponent, and an opponent that I could see the Pats playing in the playoffs later on this year.
I do agree with the point on the offense. The Houston offense is definitely, I'm not trying to, downplay them at all. They have Deshaun Watson, who, like I said, I think he's going to be one hell of a player in this league. But the O-line, they really don't have that good of an O-line. They traded away their left tackle last year after Deshaun Watson got hurt, I believe, Dwayne Brown. So they don't really have many good players on that O-line. The Patriots D-line, I think, is going to be really good this year. I think they have a lot of depth pieces that could potentially step up, like Dietrich Wise or Derek Rivers.
Danny Shelton, too.
I think one of those two. Danny Shelton, although he's more of a run player, I could definitely see him playing a large part in the success of the Patriots defense possibly this year. But Dietrich Wise and Derek Rivers, I think if one of those two emerges as a legitimate pass rushing option, and possibly both, I think the Pats, up front are going to have the edge. So I think they're going to have to put the Texans are going to have to put Deshaun Watson in a lot of passing plays, and I'm just not sure how he's going to respond to that, being his first game back since that knee injury.
Yeah, and again, like you said before, there's a lot of storylines in this game. J.J. Watt is back. How is Tom Brady going to be at age 41? What's he going to do without Julian Edelman? Deshaun Watts' knee, J.J. Watt, I already talked about those. This is a big game, really, for both teams. Both teams have something to prove in this game. And I think that really ups the intensity. It's not – the NFL season is only 16 games. I don't mean to say there are throwaway games, but don't tell me the Pats are going to, when the Jets are coming into town, that they meet it with the same level of intensity as a team like this. I think this is the most intense season opener the Pats have had in quite a long time, save for maybe when Garoppolo was in, when Brady was out.
I agree. Let's jump to topic number 2, overall expectations for the season. Why don't you start, Ryan?
All right. Blake Bortles, Ben Roethlisberger, Andrew Luck, Deshaun Watson. Malik, can you please stop me when I name a quarterback where you say, oh, dear God, please keep me away from him? Patrick Mahomes, Nathan Peterman, Ryan Tannehill, Sam Darnold. These are the schmucks you're facing out of the AFC this year, both in the regular season and the playoffs. Does anyone on that list frighten you? Is there a soul on that list that you go, oh man, that quarterback can match up to Tom Brady? That quarterback can match up to
Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, that's in the NFC. So
he's on the schedule.
Doesn't matter. That's not where I'm going. I had the Patriots at 11-5 this year. I have them losing to the Packers. I have them losing to the Vikings, 2 NFC teams. The other games I have them losing, you could lose to the Jaguars, you could lose to the Texans, and haven't they lost their last 3 years down in Miami?
Something like that. It's a tough place for them to play, especially when it's later in the year.
So those are the games I'm looking out for. While only 2 of those come out of the NFC, I think that I no matter what you think of the Pats team this year, and frankly, I don't love this Patriots team right now, I still think the AFC is the Patriots to lose. And it's a preseason. I get that. I understand that. But there's no one in the AFC right now that I think the Pats are terrified of. Now, again, will I be stunned if Ben Roethlisberger takes the Steelers to Super Bowl? No. Will I be stunned if Blake Bortles does? I'd put it more on the defense. But yeah, I can see the Jaguars going. And you know what? I'll throw in the wild card a little bit. I could see the Texans going there as well. Maybe I'm too high on the Texans than I should be, but I could see the Texans doing it. By far and away, I think that the Patriots have the best chance of going to the Super Bowl this year. The AFC compared to the NFC is an absolute joke this year. I believe the NFC Championship game this year is the Super Bowl. Whoever wins the NFC is going to win. Now, it might not be a thrashing, but the Rams will beat the Patriots. The Packers, I think, would beat the Patriots. Well, Aaron Rodgers would beat the Patriots, maybe not their defense. The Vikings, the Eagles will beat you again. I think the Falcons will beat you again. Not again, but I think the Falcons can beat you. So, yeah, I think that this year's Super Bowl champions is going to be coming out of the NFC, and I think the Pats have the best chance to win the AFC again, and then, one of the worst teams they've had in years will still go to the Super Bowl.
All right. That's a lot to digest.
Yeah, a little bit.
There, but
kind of rambled.
Obviously, at this point, I think anything other than an AFC Championship game appearance is a disappointment for a lot of Patriots fans. I really don't want to talk much about their record or, if they're going to win the Super Bowl or not. I just want to really see the dynamic between Brady and Bill. Obviously, there was some disconnect and a little bit of bad blood between the two. Should the Pats go on a 2 or 3 game losing streak, or just play poorly and squeak by some bad competition? I want to see if do you remember Tom Brady freaking out at Josh McDaniels last year in Buffalo? Yep. So I want to see if there are any public displays of frustration either by Brady or by Belichick. I doubt it'd be by Belichick. He's always, keeping the same facial expression, throughout the game. But I don't think Brady was pissed off at Josh, when he's screaming at McDaniels last year in Buffalo. I thought it was more of his frustration with Bill, because if you remember, that was around the time when Bill kicked Alex Guerrero, Brady's trainer, off the team planes and sidelines. And that is one dynamic I want to keep an eye on. I believe Guerrero's now allowed back on the sidelines and on the team planes. So
for the game in Carolina, the preseason game, he was allowed on the plane, but he was not allowed on the sideline. Now, around the same time, Brady's contract was restructured, extended, all that malarkey with all the incentives. So, and I know this was talked about on Felger and Maz earlier in the week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, and I do want to attribute their take to them. It's kind of hard not to kind of get the feeling that something went on behind the scenes there. Like, there's obviously major friction between Kraft, Bill, and Brady, and I think that meeting is like, all right, Tom, you're going to get your trainer back, but Bill's going to give you this contract, yada, yada, yada. You can read into their whole take. I don't want to plagiarize it, so.
Yeah, I just want to see what happens because, maybe Bill kicks Guerrero off again. Maybe Guerrero, in the Seth Wickersham story was reportedly telling other Patriots players that the team doctors were not giving them the best advice medically. And obviously you can't have an outside trainer undermining your medical staff. Like, you just can't have that on your team. And so maybe Guerrero does something like that again. If that did happen before, maybe Bill gets tired of that stuff or whatever. And we'll see how it plays out with Brady and Belichick. The other aspect of the team I'm curious in watching is the guys on the D-line. Trey Flowers, I think, is a star in the making. I want to boast, too, because I called that. I saw him in a preseason game, I think 3 or 4 years ago, and he had a strip sack on Aaron Rodgers. And right there, I was like, this kid might be something, and sure enough, he's been one of the best defenders on this Patriots team for the last year or two. And I like both Wise and Derek Rivers. I think those guys could, possibly become rotational players and maybe even starters. They have Adrian Claiborne on the other side. He's a solid player too, but I like both Wise and Rivers. And, Flowers, Wise, Rivers, those are three edge guys that can make a difference up front if they play up to their potential. And not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but, life after Brady, you're going to have to get a better defense than what we've seen the last couple of seasons. And if those guys can become playmakers on the defensive line, then I think Patriots fans should be excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And at this point, I think you'll take a lot of help on the defensive front, especially in that front line. I remember last year, Pats in the Super Bowl didn't do a great job pressuring Nick Foles. Of course, that game pretty much ended with the strip sack of Tom Brady. So if you can get more big defensive plays going on, that's going to help both teams. I mean, not both teams, the Patriots immensely. And I think he is the guy to do it.
Yeah, for sure. So you brought up this topic, and I thought it was a pretty good topic to discuss. It's our confidence in the Patriots this season. And let me just start off. I think it's hard for me, at least, to not have a lot of confidence in the Patriots, and you know how pessimistic I can get sometimes.
You pessimistic? Never.
They've been they've been to 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years, and this is something that I thought about for a little while as I'm mustering up this take. 2 off seasons ago, they were making splash moves left and right. They signed Stephon Gilmore, and I'm not saying I'm against the signing, but it was a big money move. They made it right at 401, so to say. And they also traded for Brandon Cooks, Dwayne Allen, who we know now is not a good player, but at the time when the Patriots made the trade, Allen was known as at least a decent player. And this offseason, they kind of took it slow. They signed, some low-key guys, kind of like Adrian Claiborne, who I don't think a lot of casual fans will know about other than his 4 or 5 sack game against the Cowboys last year. But he's a solid pass rusher. They traded for Jason McCourty and Trent Brown. Those guys aren't spectacular players, but I think that they can perform in the right amount of capacity. And let's see if Belichick does play them and put them into correct spots. But I think their defense is definitely going to be better this year. I am still concerned about the linebackers. Behind Hightower, you don't really have much. And even Hightower, you can't really bet on him to play 16 games. And we'll see. Hopefully he can play in the playoffs. But last year, he tore his pectoral muscle and was out for the postseason. I'm also concerned about the skill positions. You touched on this a little bit earlier in the show. But if one of Gronk or Edelman goes down for an extended period of time, especially the postseason, they are hosed. And if they're healthy and performing, I'll have no concerns about the offense whatsoever. I think Brady's going to put up 30 a game. I think in the postseason you should have confidence. But if Gronk or Edelman goes down, then there's really not a Brandon Cooks to step up behind one of those 2 players and emerge as a reliable option. And say what you want about Brandon Cooks, but he's surely better than guys like Chris Hogan, Philip Dorsett, and Cordarrelle Patterson, who are the 3 top receivers on the Patriots depth chart right now. But overall, I'm pretty confident because of number 12. And I know that sounds cliche, and I know he's 41 years old, but he's the best ever. And I don't think that he's slowing down.
It's not wrong to believe in Tom Brady. I think it's wrong to believe in this Patriots roster. This team can win games. This team will win the division. All that, like barring an injury to Tom Brady, this team's going to win the AFC East very, very easily. On the other hand, when they get to the playoffs and they're playing more well-rounded teams, it's going to be a struggle. And then you have to rely on Tom Brady making these other wide receivers into great players. And again, maybe Cordarrelle Patterson can become the next Chris Hogan, where he's he's half decent, or maybe the next Danny Amendola. Not that Amendola was bad when he got to New England, but it was all right, not spectacular, but not And then Brady made him great. You have to hope that happens here again, because once you get to the playoffs and you're playing a strong defensive team, they're going to have a field day with that Patriots wide receiver core. And again, Edelman's good. He's coming off a torn ACL as a slot receiver. Like, again, if he was a vertical threat or something like that, perhaps that wouldn't be as big of a deal. He's an undersized slot receiver. That's not a good recipe at all. Then, moving on from that, but talking about the confidence of the team as a whole, what was I saying here? I only have middle-of-the-road confidence in this team. Like, ignoring everything else happening, I don't think you can be confident in this team. Tom Brady can only get you so far. But then again, I look around the AFC. Blake Bortles doesn't scare me. Ben Roethlisberger doesn't. So while I have low confidence in this team, I'll still pick them to win the AFC because I still don't think anyone else does. The AFC is a tomato can right now, and it has been since, 2 or 3 years before Peyton Manning retired. So, yeah, that's where I stand on this team. My confidence in the Patriots, just looking at them alone, might be a 3. But then as I expand it to the AFC, an 8.5, maybe a 9, somewhere in that ballpark. Because again, the AFC sucks, and it's sucked for the last 2 or 3 years, and that's why the Pats have gone to 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls. You know what? That's fine. This is the worst Patriots team that we've seen in 5 or 6 years. Like the Pats this year are nowhere near as good as they were last year. Nowhere as good as they were 2 years ago, and certainly nowhere near as good as they were 3 years ago. Am I delusional for thinking that?
I think
How?
I think they're better this year than last year, but marginally. I think the defense is going to be better. They lost Hightower, they lost Rivers, they add Claiborne, they add Jason McCourty. I think that the front seven's going to be a whole lot better, and I do have some questions about the secondary. But if you have a good pass rush, I think that's going to solve a lot of issues in the back end, and I do think the Patriots are going to have a good pass rush this year. And the offense probably won't be as good as it was last year, but it's going to be right there. You have Brady, you have Edelman, you have Gronk, and I know Edelman's coming off that ACL, but a lot of people are comparing him to Welker after he tore his ACL in 2009, but people forget Welker tore his ACL, I think, week 16 or 17 against the Texans. But, Edelman went down early in the preseason, and he's had over a full year to recover. A lot of people recover pretty easily from these ACL injuries nowadays. I'm a little bit worried, but not really. Like, I think Edelman's going to be Edelman. I think Gronk's going to be Gronk. And you can put, me out there, and the offense is going to be putting up 30 a game, So I do think this team is going to be better than last year. But, I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference.
I think it was week 17 against the Texans. Then he was ready to go by the start of the season. He wasn't supposed to be ready to go by that point. He was supposed to be ready to go by week 4 or 5, and then he put up tremendous numbers the season afterwards. That is a lot to me. And not to compare other sports, different sports. That to me reminds me of Tim Thomas's 2011, where it was just death-defying in a sense. It was so remarkable. It's one of those things you always just remember. We've seen plenty of players come back after a torn ACL, and they're nowhere like themselves. Absolutely nothing. And again, Brady came back in that first game against the Saints. He dropped a dime to, was it Brandon LaFell? In the end zone? Maybe it was Campbell Tompkins.
Yeah.
Again, one of those B wide receivers that Tom Brady made a little better. So, could he come back and play well? Yeah. But he's also suspended the first 4 games. And you have 2 legit opponents in your first 2 games in the Texans and the Jaguars. So, I think that Edelman can only be so helpful to you this year.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up with some predictions. I am not a huge fan of predictions, but a lot of people like taking sound bites of when people are really, really wrong and posting them on Twitter.
Yeah, something tells me this podcast is going to be a death of me.
This team to win this, and they only won this. So
Wait, I
So
thought we were
let's
already idiots.
turn into some
We need
idiots.
to turn into idiots?
Let's just go down the line here. I
Yeah,
have
fair enough.
NFL standings. Well, we need some sound bites now. We need to give people some sound bites of how stupid we are.
Yeah, Pat's winning. And
let's
anyone
just
who
go
doesn't have
down
the Pats winning
AFC
is
East,
on some
I have the Pats winning
dank,
the division. What about you, Ryan?
dank weed or worse.
All right.
Yeah, we have the Steelers there pretty decisively.
AFC North, I think we both have the Steelers there, don't we? Yeah. I don't want to pick them, but no one in that division's good other than the Steelers. AFC South, I'm actually going the Colts. I think Andrew Luck's going to come back and he's going to put up some numbers. I think the defense is going to be a tad better. I mean, probably
I have
not
as much
good,
confidence
but,
in Andrew Luck's shoulder as I do in Peter Chiarelli making
going
good
on a
trades or
hunch here.
draft picks. None at all. Zippo.
So very
Houston
good.
Texans.
All right. Let's go AFC West.
It's tough.
I
but
am
the
going
Raiders
with
just
the
got rid of
LA
their best
Chargers.
defensive
What
player.
about you, Ryan?
The Chiefs are using a rookie quarterback, and if you think the Broncos are going to win, again, you're out of your mind. So, yeah, I guess by default, it's the LA Chargers. I honestly think we could be seeing a scenario here where a lot like the Saints back in what year was it? 2008, 2009, where they had a losing record against the playoffs. They could have an 8-8 record this year and against. Oh, right. The Seahawks beat the Saints. It wasn't the Saints that had it. It was the Saints Super Bowl win. That's
Seahawks
correct.
7-9.
Yeah, I could see something like that happening this year with the AFC West. I could see the Chargers coming in, maybe not 7-9, maybe 8-8, 9-7. I'd be a little surprised if they got to 10 wins. I could see it. I'd be a little surprised. Yep.
I agree. And funny to think that division was stacked just a couple years ago.
Begrudgingly, I am going to second
NFC
that.
East, I am going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles, right? All right. NFC North, I'm going with the Vikings. I wanted to go with the Packers, but that defense blows, and I just think the Vikings are just so much
Can you remind me who the Vikings
Packers,
quarterback
so
is?
That's who I'm going with. Kirk Cousins, he's not bad at all, man. Like if he's your starting quarterback,
can you remind me who the
Vikings defense,
Green Bay Packers
then
quarterback
I think you
is?
got yourself one hell of a team.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to put my faith in Aaron Rodgers the same way I'd put my faith in Tom Brady if he was in that division. This is the Green Bay Packers division, and you know what? It'll be close. And again, am I going to be shocked if the Vikings come back and take it? Absolutely not. But yeah, I'll put my money here on the Green Bay Packers by one game. I'll step further. One game.
All right. NFC South. I think I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers. I like their offense a lot this year. I think their defense is going to get a little bit better with some of the younger guys.
Right. I don't know if this qualifies as a dark horse because, again, the NFC South looks really good this year. The Saints, the Panthers, and the Falcons. The last of which I'm going to pick to win that division. I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to have a bounce-back year this year. Not that they really need a bounce-back year, I suppose, but I think Matt Ryan's going to have a resurgence. I think that Julio Jones is going to play really well with Matt Ryan's resurgence. So, yeah, I'm going to pick the Falcons here.
Okay, and NFC West, I think we both have the
real
LA
dark
Rams,
horse. Again, I think they could be a real good wild card team.
Real intriguing with Jimmy G.
There are a lot of holes on that team, and I think the Rams they're well rounded. Excuse me, it's a confident pick. I think Jared Goff's good. Again, because Le'Veon Bell isn't playing, I think that Todd Gurley is the best running back in the game right now. We can get into that. If we get into the whole Le'Veon Bell saga, this episode's going to be 3 hours long. But I think with the best running back in the league, as well as one of the Jared Goff's good, not spectacular, but definitely in the upper echelon of quarterbacks. I think with that 1-2 combo combined with their defense, they're going to be a scary team this year.
All right, and let's just go straight to Super Bowl predictions.
Earlier today, we're recording this on September 5th.
Actually, you know what? Let's go with you first because you have a good
Boston Red
one.
Sox erased a 6-run deficit in the 8th inning to win the game. What, 8-7? 9-8? 9-8. Moonshot. Legend has it that thing's still
Brandon
flying
Phillips
through the air.
The
reason I bring that up,
run in the 9th. Yeah,
because it happened against the Atlanta Braves. The Patriots beat the Atlanta Falcons back in Super Bowl 51, and in Super Bowl 53, I think Atlanta scores one back against New England. The Atlanta Falcons will defeat the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 53. Laugh at me all you want. It's what I have. It's what I have.
I love this prediction so much. I love it so much. Oh God. I have the Pats and the Vikings. I think the Vikings are gonna have one hell of a year. Maybe finally not choke and kind of get over that Viking curse. I guess they've been kind of sneaky choking dogs over the past decade or two. But I think the Pats are gonna win. I think if the Pats win, that's just gonna kind of send off Belichick, and then Brady will have a couple more. But that's another topic. I do think that the Pats are going to win. I think they have a good team this year. I'm not as confident in the NFC teams as you are. I think they have some good teams, but ultimately, I believe every team in the league has a major flaw, and that's why it's kind of evening out
5
the levels.
There's
a little bit.
0 in the AFC. 5. By the way, for just to get it out there, that is the Falcons, the Falcons, the Packers, the Vikings, the Rams, and the Eagles. Yes, the Falcons,
The Saints
Packers,
aren't on there?
Lions, Rams, Eagles. The Saints are not on there. What did I say? Okay. Falcons, Packers, but
The Lions.
I'm literally reading off the page right now, but I have the standings up on the other side.
One more
Falcons,
time.
Lions, Packers, Rams, Eagles. Eagles, Rams, Packers, Vikings, Falcons. All right, that was an event and a half right there. But yeah, all 4 division leaders plus the Vikings.
All right. That was. All right. That's interesting. But, that's going to conclude the first episode of the Boston Sports Podcast. It's going to be coming out weekly, either Wednesday or Thursday morning, most likely. I'm Malik Zorak, and that is Ryan Sullivan. Thanks for listening.